Walk until there's only one of you left. Who's ready to fucking win? The Long Walk was directed by Francis Lawrence, who's done films like Constantine, as well as Hunger Games Catching Fire, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. Yeah, they went the Twilight route and the Harry Potter route and said, we can split this book into 2 parts, and you know what? It was successful, so I really can't argue with that. I can, however, argue with Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snacks, which was a prequel that showed the rise of snow and not all that much else. Even though Rachel Zegler really did her best and really has a great set of pipes on her, she is absolutely tremendous as a singer, as an actress. She's nowhere near The Long Walk, shall we say. And he also did Water for Elephants. And it has to be about elephants, because if it wasn't about elephants, it would be irrelevant. And anything that isn't about elephants in a movie called Water for Elephants is absolutely irrelevant. Now that I drove that joke into the goddamn ground, let me talk about what else Francis Lawrence has done. A lot of music videos, a metric fuck ton, for your favorite artists, and also Jennifer Lopez, who's lucky that Selena's life was tragically cut short, or otherwise she'd be a backup dancer, because she's about as good of a singer as she is an actress, and she's about as good an actress as she is a singer. So that being said, enough talking about that. Let's talk about the fact that this is adapted from a story by Stephen King. It's adapted to the screen by J.T. Molnar, who did Strange Darling. Absolutely great fucking movie. Fucking tremendous, horrifying, gory, just great shit. I fucking love Strange Darling. I need to rewatch that at some point. So, The Long Walk basically takes place in a semi-dystopian future. It seems to take place actually in the Canadian wilderness. You really can't tell the difference. Har har. And it's filmed in parts of Canada, Manitoba, and just like long roads for long walks, as it were. Fitting for a movie called The Long Walk, where 50 teenage youths sign up and they must continue to walk and walk and walk and walk. And basically there are rules for this walk. Essentially, if you fall below the speed of 3 miles per hour that is monitored on a, monitor, as it were, as opposed to monitoring the heart rates and all that stuff, they just basically have something where they can keep tabs on you. They being the military, headed by the Major, played by Mark Hamill, who really was bound and determined to use his real-life experiences as a youth on a military base in Japan when he saw firsthand just how people were treated. He knew that guy, he said it in interviews, and he was really ready to play this role. He also credits Mike Flanagan for bringing back his career because, with the fall of the House of Usher, I'm sorry, Lil Jon took over and, everything. But that being said, after that, he also did The Life of Chuck that Mike Flanagan did, and that is a terrific, terrific movie you need to check out. Mark Hamill, when he is on screen, by the way, does have a lot of fun. You can tell he is having a teetotal blast. And I'm so glad that he is still acting on camera, because he really is a fucking delight. So anyway, he's the mayor. There are some vehicles that go along that keep an eye, and basically if you fall below the speed of 3 miles per hour, you get a warning. And if you keep that, you get another warning. And then you get a third warning. And if you get that third warning, you get your ticket. If you don't know what the hell the ticket is, if you can't figure it out, 1, you haven't seen the trailer, and 2, I don't think you've been paying attention to how I've set up the premise. So, basically, there are ways to get away from this. If you go an hour without a warning, you get that warning stricken from your deal. And you must walk the massive amount of miles. It is a lot of miles, I will say that much. I'm not going to spoil how many it is, unless you read the book, then you know. I have not read the book, I will say that right now, so I don't know how this compares to the book. I don't really care how this compares to the book, because I went in totally blind, besides seeing numerous fucking trailers. But that's basically it. You get your ticket if you don't obey the rules. And if you decide to leave the pavement, you get an automatic ticket. Essentially, it is walk until you die. That's pretty much it right there. So yeah, Francis Lawrence using his Hunger Games experience, but without Katniss's catnips and without Lenny Kravitz getting destroyed in the second one. I probably should have worded that better. Destroying Zoe Craig. Never mind. Moving on. Whole point is, that is where our film is. So we have our two leads. And they have name tags or number tags, by the way. Up all the way up to 50. We have number 47. That is Ray Garrity, played by Cooper Hoffman, who was in Licorice Pizza, as well as playing Dick Ebersol in Saturday Night. Now, I will say the casting of that, the guy played Chevy Chase, was great. There was some good casting in that. Saturday Night just didn't fully come together. I want you to remember that phrase here in just a little bit. And Pete. Well, Peter, but Pete. They just keep calling him Pete. And then they had another one called Pete. And they just had Pete and Pete right there. Deep cut for people that need to be close to my age to even fucking get. He's number 23. David Johnson, who was in Alien Romulus and was also in Rye Lane. Rye Lane is fucking terrific. So, we also have Garrett Waving, that is. He plays the character of Stebbins. And we also have Charlie Plummer, who was in Spontaneous and National Anthem. And Charlie Plummer is becoming one of my favorite actors because he's really good. And the aforementioned Mark Hamill. So, who's ready to fucking win? Are you ready to walk? Walk no matter what. You can't even bother to stop and tie your shoe because they literally give you 10 seconds with each warning. That's 30 fucking seconds. Even if you're fast tying your goddamn shoes, it could be difficult. And you must continue to walk, and yeah, let's just say it is one of those films that is bleak and depressing and doesn't really have a lot of positives towards it. We find out a little bit about a few of the characters, mainly our two leads, Ray and Pete. And, oh yes, the guy that was in Karate Kid's Legends is also in this. I didn't see that. I actually have to rewatch the Jackie Chan one at some point, but he's in it. He kind of plays a central character, at least for a while. And I will say that as far as character building and as far as performances, this movie mostly does well with that. I think Cooper and David are the two highlights. I thought Charlie Plummer was pretty goddamn good. I liked him better in other movies. I don't know if he was exactly allowed to flex his acting muscles enough. There's another guy, Tut Nuyot, Nyot, however you say it. He's actually pretty good as well. He plays Art or Arthur. And there's also a Native American individual named Collie. Actually, that actor does pretty well also. There's all the ingredients here for a proper tension building and a proper, push of, even if it's a short story, there are ways to make this work. There are ways for these performances to carry the movie, and the tension and the fact that the major, and all these fucking people, there are random spectators that are watching this, and all this stuff, as the body count rises, the tension builds. At least I think that's what they were intending, because I don't know what the fuck people were watching. I liked the performances to an extent, but I was not grabbed by this. I didn't really find this tense. I didn't really find it sad. I didn't really find it scary. I didn't really find it horrifying. Except I think Francis Lawrence is trying to corner the market on dystopian futures. Because, again, this is set in a dystopian landscape, a dystopian-esque. And, yeah, there's a bit of social commentary about pursuing a huge cash prize. And, oh yes, you also get any wish granted to an extent. It's like your get out of jail free card, shall we say. Har har. This did not fully click to me. I wanted it to be a whole lot better than it was. And I ended up honestly being kind of bored. I liked some parts of it. I liked the chemistry between Cooper and David. But ultimately, just didn't work. I'm going to get into spoilers. In theaters, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. So that's pretty goddamn quick and abrupt. So we start off with a letter to Mr. Raymond Garrity. You've been selected. And then he's getting ready. His mother, played by Judy Greer, who's having some interesting turns as being a dramatic actress. She's hugging him, wanting him just to come back and everything, stuff like that. So basically, the walk itself is 4 days, 331 miles, or 332. I mean, they arrive at 331 miles by the end and everything, and then they get to the city. So they could have clicked over to 332 on this odometer. So, yes, these troubled youths all have reasons as to why they want to do it. One guy wants to write a book. One guy, I believe Hank, the kid was in Karate Kid's Legends. He is doing this because it turns out that he actually has a wife. Ray is doing this essentially because his father died by teaching some of the old ways and some of the stuff that was outlawed. He has this great war that tore the country apart. Basically, it's a dictatorship, essentially. That's basically what it fucking is. It's like if the stuff in Civil War happened, but then less stuff happened. And that's the thing. Enough stuff happens in this to move it along. It just doesn't propel it beyond its 3-mile-per-hour speed. It just goes and goes. The writer ends up suffering a busted ankle and is dragging his foot and then can't go anymore and gets shot. The first one to get shot, Curly, that sets the tone. That scene actually was leaked, like by media outlets and stuff like that. I mean, it was shown by the studio and they said, go ahead, show this. It's a way to hook people. That actually was kind of okay. And there are some neat little gore scenes and stuff like that. There's nice world building with Ray and Pete. Pete ends up revealing that he lost his parents in this great war, was abused by his uncle, and just generally had an unhappy life. Ray lost his dad because his dad basically was found out, and the mayor basically says, you pledge allegiance to the state, the society and the squad, or it's the state and the squads. I forget the other one. I think it might have been the society. Some of this stuff is a little blending together for me. That's showing a flashback. But we do get, some sub-villains. That implies the existence of Dom villains, by the way. We get Gary, not Gary from Horrors of Spider Island for MST3K fans. Don't worry, we don't have a coating of oil that will protect us in this. Charlie Plummer does a good job here. He antagonizes enough people and pisses off one guy that basically leads to this guy trying to punch him, but then he slides on the hot pavement and does this and all this stuff, and then warning. The first couple times that somebody gets shot, it's sort of good, and then you get used to it. And maybe that's the idea of the movie, wants to desensitize you to the violence. The problem is you can have a slow burn movie like this, and one that's just a simple premise, if you have something other than just the performances to rely on. When you don't have much of a story, and there's not much of a story here. It is just the performances driving this, and they can propel it far, just not far enough. Bless Cooper, bless David for trying. There is a genuine friendship here. You almost want to feel a twinge of sadness that only one of these guys can win. The problem is the movie tips its hand so early. And what I mean by that is you can tell that Ray has had some problems. Ray flashes back, later in the movie about his dad being shot by the major, and that's what he's going to do. His wish is to get a gun and shoot the major. Get the cash prize, make sure the cash prize goes to his mother, but shoot the major to get revenge. That's basically it. Pete just wants to find the light in the dark, do some good stuff. It's not easy and everything because he's been through a lot. He's scarred up. He's beat up. I mean, he's got a scar on his collarbone there. He's got a scar like this, on his damn cheek. He's been beat to shit, but he still has a positive outlook. Gary starts to go and stuff like that. There's this guy, Stebbins, that ends up, even though he's physically fit and stuff like that, there's an earlier part where the major basically kind of looks at him, like, with a little bit of respect, like, good luck, son. He says, good luck, son. Oh, gee, okay. Oh, gee. I wonder what he means by that. Oh, yeah, Stebbins is his son, by the way. I'm jumping around a lot of this with the reveals, but really, it's just walking. There's one part where they walk up a hill. They don't run up the hill like that song that's apparently in Stranger Things that I have yet to see one episode of, but I know there's a song that's from it. Yeah, maybe I should check out Stranger Things at some point, but given the space that they're going to have between some of the parts of episode or season 5, maybe I don't have to. Again, you don't get to see Mark Hamill a ton. You get to see him some, and that's probably smart because he's just this omnipresent thing. But the thing about you not being able to step up the pavement, one tries to and gets shot. And just boom, just hurled with bullets. Another tries to, at one point when they're on a straightaway that's clearly like a state highway that's been blocked off. Boom. And as the numbers dwindle down, they start saying stuff like, fuck the long walk, fuck the major, this kind of stuff. And it's the 19th annual long walk, so things have been, cracks in the system are going to start happening, like in the Hunger Games, except without so many arrows being thrown. As hilarious as that would have been. And no Julianne Moore in this. That was disappointing. I'll watch Julianne Moore in anything, or nothing for that matter. Moving on. Basically, one thing that Pete tells Ray is, don't think about the end, think about the moment. These moments, this kind of stuff. Even when they're tired, Pete is there for him, making sure that, Ray can sleep while he walks, literal sleepwalking. And after we find out about his dad, we find out about Pete's backstory. We also find out that Stebbins is one of the many kids that the Major has. And he is brought there because he's like kind of the race rabbit, like the kind that can't be caught. He's expected to win this because he's the Major's son. And there's one part near the end where the mother actually does show up in the city. And this is after Collie, by the way, manages to get a gun, shoot one of the guards, but then doesn't immediately shoot the other guard to take the goddamn car away. No, doesn't do that. He shoots one, pauses, and then gets gut shot, and then shoots himself. So, back to the mother being there. Ray runs up because he feels so bad for what he did to his mother. He feels so bad and everything. He doesn't know if he can do this. He's even had to take his shoes off at this point because the soles are flopping away, literally tearing the soul away from people. Like, it's not going well. There's like 5 of them left. There are not that many people left. Maybe it's 4 by this point. Goes to his mother. If he stepped off that sidewalk, he'd get shot. And by the way, she'd probably get shot because she'd be there. Be friendly fire and all that. And she stops him and everything. You get back and you walk and you win this thing and stuff like that. And he apologizes and he realizes that maybe revenge isn't all it's cracked out to be because he wants his mom to be safe. So, anyway, after Stebbins reveals this, he stops, he gets shot, and now it's down to Pete and it's down to Ray. And Pete had said at one point, I think after the hill climb, or somewhere around there, he had said he knows he's not going to win this. What he's going to do is he's going to sit down in the streets, and he's just going to let it happen. And they're fighting through the elements, they're fighting through the hot, they're fighting through the rain, they're fighting through all this stuff. They're fighting through Moose going around, Dudley Do-Right not saving Sweet Polly Purebred from loving on his horse. Look it up, folks, and Dudley Do-Right, they implied a lot of shit. Man, how they got away with that stuff. And finally, they reach the end. There's spectators, all this stuff. And now it's down to 2. And it's been 4 days and 332 miles. And then Ray and Pete are there. And then Pete finally says, I'm done. You go win this. You go win this. He gets his warrant, gets his stuff. And Ray gets him up and says, no, we're going to keep walking. We're going to keep walking until and then Ray stays behind and Ray gets shot because he knew that Pete was the right one to win. So Ray doesn't get his revenge. Pete gets his goddamn cash prize. Fireworks, all this stuff going off. The mayor keeps saying that. The Major congratulates him. And there we go. Everything ends. Except it doesn't. Pete remembers the wish. And he could have wished for anything. He could have wished for a way to help the world. Help kids like him. But he could do that with the cash prize. He says, I want a gun. I want that gun. And he holds it to the Major. And you think he's not going to do it. You think maybe he's going to realize, that kind of stuff, light in the dark. This is for Ray. Boom. And then he walks. Everybody seemingly disappears, by the way. I mean, everybody either goes into, like, someone else's house. It's like the monsters would do on Maple Street if everybody just went back to their houses and disappeared. So nothing like that. But then, Pete walks away, and that is it. That is the longest walk right there. It was certainly a movie that happened. People will call it one of the best Stephen King adaptations, and I respect you if you think that. It is performance-driven with 2 great lead performances and some good supporting roles. The problem is, I'm sorry, I just didn't care. I just didn't care about the story. It didn't grab me. It didn't hold me in. Yes, I praise other movies that have been silly or been depressing and stuff like that. But something about those pulled me in. This kept me at arm's length. It just walked ahead of me and just never looked back, ironically. C+, I'm sorry, that's probably going to piss people off. I don't really care because it's my review. You can leave yours in the comments if you want. Anyway, so like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. Until we wander on a Canadian state highway again, happy trails to you.